Help me reach 7,000 subscribers. Please like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. Your feedback helps make the content better. She started calling our home, the place, like she was checking into a hotel and I was the night clerk. Plates clinked. She stood at the sink, phone face down, voice flat. Don't wait up. Aaron tossed without turning. Connor's studio runs late. I leaned on the doorway. We had dinner plans. She flicked a wet hand. You can microwave. It's not a big emotional thing. Glad to know I rank somewhere between leftovers and a podcast. She gave a thin smile. If the shoe fits. I didn't bite. I rinsed my plate, loaded the dishwasher, and let the silence sit. That was the first night she set me below her calendar. The next morning, she hummed like nothing happened and asked if I could swing by the co-op for oat milk on my way from the job site. I watched her knot her hair and talk about personal growth as if I was drywall. I tried a soft reset. Aaron, I don't want to manage this with hints. Are we okay? She took a long sip of coffee. You're so intense first thing. We're fine, Mike. You just clamp down. It's heavy. If I'd known where that line was headed, I'd have stopped making coffee right then. The first body blow landed 2 nights later at our kitchen island, the granite I'd installed myself the year we moved in. She floated in late, smelled like paint thinner and clove oil, and parked a tote of supplies on my laptop. Watched the brushes. I nudged the tote aside. That your precious client spreadsheet? Her tone was light, cut with something sharp. Connor says we all hide behind productivity. Keeps us from breathing. Connor's a painter. I build structures that don't collapse. See? You don't hear yourself. Everything is control with you. She drummed a brush handle against the counter. By the way, I told the group they can come by Friday before the pop-up. Pre-game. I'll need the living room empty. You'll need the living room what? Empty. Like free. Like not full of you. I set my mug down. Let's cut to brass tacks. I pay rent, utilities, and bought half this furniture. You asked me to bring your easels up because the elevator was out. Fine. But scheduling our home as your staging area like I'm the intern, no. She laughed once. You don't have to get dramatic. Here's me being undramatic. I opened the banking app. As of tonight, we're splitting discretionary expenses. Your studio fees, your group supplies, your rides. I'm taking my card off any auto pay tied to that circle. Rent and utilities stay on me for this month as agreed. Past that, we talk like adults. Wow, she tilted her head. Punishment over paint water. It's not punishment. It's a boundary. You want independence? Great. Independence pays for itself. She rolled the brush between her palms. Connor says scarcity thinking kills creativity. Connor can workshop scarcity with the landlord. She stared at me, calculating. So Friday, you'll be where? At Rick's garage, I said. Rick's my foreman and friend. A straight shooter with a busted knee and a working brain. I won't be here hosting people who think a mortgage is oppression. But your guests won't be here either. House stays a home, not a public lobby. You're kidding. I'm concise. She exhaled through her nose. You're smothering everything fun. Then go breathe somewhere you pay for. Her eyes darted to the phone. A text preview blinked with a mushroom emoji and floor plan. She slid it away, chin up. You know what? We'll do the pregame at Lila's. Happy now. I'm not chasing happy. I'm restoring order. I slept light that night. In the morning, she was soft. She put a sticky note on my thermos. Sorry for the attitude. Big week. She kissed my cheek, made jokes about my old truck, and asked if I could look at a wobbly shelf at Lila's before the event. First illusion. Like care, pretend truce. Text me the time, I replied. I'll swing by after work. See, she brightened. We're good. I wasn't sold, but I didn't slam the door. Lila's rooftop party was a clean test of where we stood. New building, string lights. Plastic cups, the predictable mix of people who call every inconvenience a narrative. I carried a small toolbox because the shelf actually was loose. Erin moved through clusters like she'd been appointed tour guide of freedom. She found me, planted a quick kiss like a stamp, and pulled me toward her circle. This is Mike, she announced. He measures everything to the inch. It's adorable. Connor, all rings and linen, gave me a handshake like a wet noodle. Precision is one way to live. It keeps bridges up, I answered, checking the shelf bracket. Kind of the point. Your vibe is heavy, a girl in a wide hat said. We're trying to keep this light. You invited him, Lila chimed in, laughing. He's the guy who thinks folding laundry is romance. Erin smirked. She looked at me with that tiny dare. Do you make a scene, or do you swallow it in public? I set the screwdriver down. You all do what you like, I said to the group, even not loud. But from this point, our place is not a studio annex. It's not a hangout between gallery calls. It's our home, and we treat it as such. Lila blinked. We weren't. I'm not asking, I cut in. I'm letting you know. And Erin, starting next month, utilities are split. I'll email the numbers. Your friends can pass the hat if they love the vibe that much. Mike, Erin hissed, cheeks coloring. Not here. Exactly here, I replied. Because the scheduling of my living room happened here. The circle shifted. Rick, who'd shown up to check the roof drains, grunted. Seems fair. He pulled me aside. You want out? Say when. Garage couch is open. I'm not running, I murmured. I'm redrawing. Erin approached later with 2 cups of lemonade. Okay, she said quiet. You embarrassed me. You've been easing into that lane for weeks, I answered. I just set a cone. I get it, she offered, softening. I've been stressed. Sorry for the digs. Can we not turn this into math? We can keep it simple, I said. You want your projects? Cool. Keep those costs on your side. Don't book our home like a venue. Don't minimize me in public. That's it. She touched my arm. Done. Back at the elevator, she slipped her hand through mine like a ceasefire flag. We rode down in quiet. Second beat of the same illusion came early. The next morning she made eggs, sent me a photo of a sunset, and texted, You were right to check us. The sweetness felt installed, like a plug-in. 2 days later, she slid a new topic across the table like a contract. Quick thought. She began, rearranging coasters. What if we did a trial, recalibration? I've been thinking about space. Define space, I said. Not breaking up, she rushed. Just, like, separate corners for a while. I could live alone, just to breathe. You could keep covering the basics until I find my footing. It wouldn't change us. It would help us. Where would I live during your breathing? I asked. She kept her eyes on a tiny scratch in the table. Well, it might be simpler if you found something temporary. Short term. Then I could stay in the apartment. I have my routines. You want me to move out of the place I pay for so you can be alone in the comfort I built. I let it hang. That's novel. It's not like that, she protested. It's strategic. If you leave for a bit, I'll reset. You don't have to take it personally. The urge to argue was there. I didn't. I leaned back and looked at my own hands. Heavier than hers. Steadier. Let's take the night, I said. I'll think. She nodded, relieved, maybe thinking she'd framed the only logical road. If I'd known where it was headed, I would have bought moving boxes on my way to work. The words she chose when she finally went all in were the kind you remember even if you never reread the transcript. We sat across from each other on a Thursday, late, after she'd come back from the studio with that glow people get when someone tells them they're special. You're suffocating me. Erin started, deliberate, as if taught to enunciate each piece. I need to live alone for a while. This isn't about us breaking up. I let her finish. She looked at me like she expected resistance, a plea, a negotiation. I didn't give her any of that. I want you to be happy, I told her. She blinked. So you understand. I do. I stood, reached for my keys, and pulled my own notebook from the shelf. Let me help you get exactly what you asked for. Don't be smug, she warned. I'm being precise. Friday at 6 a.m., I was at Rick's garage loading my workbench into the bed of my truck. By noon, my friend Nate from the office rolled up with a dolly. We moved quietly, cleanly. My office chair, the printer I bought, the TV I'd mounted, the power tools, the 2 bookshelves I built from oak. I labeled boxes the way I labeled job site inventory. My name was on every receipt. My card paid for every cord. I took my coffee grinder and the cast iron skillet I seasoned. I left the couch she'd paid for with her tax refund. Not because I'm generous, because I'm exact. At 2, I emailed the landlord. Subject line, lease termination, 30 days. The lease was in my name only. We'd never added hers. She'd told friends it made her feel nimble. Nimble cuts both ways. I called the utility companies. End dates set for the last day of the month. I cleared my half of the closet and folded it into the truck. I didn't slam a door. I shut them all. Saturday, Rick and Nate helped move the furniture I wanted to keep into a small 1-bedroom I'd co-signed on that morning. Not fancy. Clean. Closer to the yard. I paid the deposit and the first month while we drank flat coffee from paper cups. On the way back, I stopped for 2 sets of new sheets and a cheap table. Tools went into the hall closet like a second spine. At night, I texted Erin. You'll have the place to yourself by Sunday. Utilities end on the 30th, keys left with the landlord on the 1st. She didn't answer. Sunday noon, she walked in, a toad on her shoulder, and saw the hollow edges where my life had been. The TV mount was empty. The desk was gone. Half the kitchen tools were gone. My office door stood open to a rug and a ghost. You can't just leave, she blurted. What is this? You needed space, I said. I'm giving it to you. You can't just leave, she repeated, like saying it twice would grow a net. I did, I replied. Her eyes landed on the stack of envelopes on the counter. I nudged them toward her. Utility termination notices. Prorated. Rent notice to the landlord. She grabbed one and scanned down. What about rent? That's between you and the landlord. You're joking. Your name isn't on the lease, I said plain. You wanted independence. You're petty, she snapped. This is a stunt. It's logistics. You're punishing me. When someone says they're suffocating, I answered, you give them air immediately. What am I supposed to do? Exactly what you asked for. Live alone. She stood in the center of the room, waiting for some kindness she believed she was owed. I didn't fill the gap. I took my last box, the one with my grandmother's tools, and walked out. In the hallway, Mrs. Alvarez from 3B peeked out, eyes soft. Everything okay? She asked. Everything's finally clear, I told her. I left my spare keys with the landlord at 4 on the dot. The burst started that evening. The first call pinged at 8. You're punishing me, she said. Real partners support growth. I support clear agreements, I replied. We had none. Now we do. I need a hand for 1 month. That's not crazy. You said you needed to breathe. I cleared the room. I don't have money for the deposit today. Then scale your life to your budget. You sound like a banker. I sound like a builder. I measure load. She hung up. Then texts. This is vindictive. You made a spectacle at Lila's, and now this. Connor says you're controlling even an exit. You abandoned me. I read, didn't respond. Next day, Rick stuck his head into my office. Your wife was downstairs, he murmured. She left a note. The note said, meet me at the apartment. Emergency. I didn't go. An hour later, the landlord called. She's crying, he said low. Says you blindsided her. But the lease is yours. You're within rights. I know the paperwork, I said. I'm not trying to hurt anyone. I'm honoring a request. It's messy, he muttered. I'll give her till the 15th to decide. After that, I show the place. He didn't need to add that he'd heard variations of this song. I thanked him. At lunch, my mother called. She's a retired nurse with a spine of steel and a heart like a duty roster. Erin came by. She began, exasperated. She's undone. She says you kicked her out without warning. I removed myself. I corrected. Semantics. Boundaries. And if she spirals? Mom pressed. Then she calls her support system. I said, I'm not a system. I'm a person. Michael, she sighed, using the full name only when she meant business. I raised you to be decent. I am. Decent is not the same as funding someone's theater. She's not theater, Mom scolded. She's family. She's a spouse who asked for space and a lifestyle I financed. I gave her the first and shut the second. Both by the book. Mom went quiet, which meant she was thinking. I don't like how cold you're being. Cold is calm when warm gets exploited. Fine. But I won't be the villain, she said. Don't put me in the middle. I'm not. She walked herself there. I hung up and took a long drink of water. The phone lit up again. Her friend Lila. What are you doing, Mike? She demanded. No hello. You made her cry. She handed me a request. I delivered it. Everyone needs a transition. You don't leave someone stranded. She's got a whole team who loves her freedom. They can crowdsource her cushion. You are impossible. Reliable is the word you want. And here's a reliable notice. Don't use our apartment as overflow, even empty. The landlord's showing it next week. You're actually ending it? She sounded surprised, which told me she'd bought the not breaking up language as a permanent loop. I'm ending the subsidy. She went silent. Then a quieter voice. She'll hate you for this. That's cheaper than losing myself. That evening, my younger brother, Evan, showed up at my new place with 2 sandwiches and a raised eyebrow. I don't get the art scene, he admitted, dropping onto my new chair. I do get rent. You turned the valve off. Yup. Proud of you, he said, then added, she'll escalate. I know. He studied me. You good? I'm steady. The next morning at 7 a.m., Erin stood outside my office building, eyes red, a to-go cup of my favorite coffee in her hand. Second illusion, only bigger. She came in slow, set the cup on my desk. I don't want to fight, she began. I was overwhelmed. I shouldn't have thrown the word suffocating like that. I meant pressure. I love you. Can we talk about a plan? Just a month paid ahead while I find a room. Or I can stay with you a few nights until I sort it. Please. You made a decision, I answered. I responded in kind. This is disproportionate, she argued. A supportive partner doesn't react like a drill sergeant. A supportive partner doesn't ask for independence with someone else's wallet. I said I'd live alone for a while, not that you should disappear. You wanted me out of your air. I am honoring your oxygen. Her lip trembled. You're leaving me with nothing. You have your income, I said. You have friends. You have a landlord who'll work with you if you're straight. What you don't have is my net. That's on purpose. She glanced around the office, clocking the calendar, the project boards, Rick's hard hat on a hook. She lowered her voice. If I stay with you for a night or two, she ventured, we could reset. I'll cook. We'll talk about priorities, maybe even. No, I cut in. You don't stay at my place. You asked for a loan. I won't blur it. Connor says. I lifted my hand. Stop outsourcing your lines. She stepped back like she'd touched a live wire. You've changed. No, I corrected. I finally matched your energy. She left the coffee, which I poured down the sink after she walked out. Rick stuck his head in again. You need me to run interference? I will, he said. I've got it, I told him. But thanks. He tipped his chin. Proud of you, man. The drumbeat shifted midweek. The pity ask hardened into accusation. Then public pressure. Then logistics. You can't cancel utilities without coordinating with me, Erin wrote. I coordinated with the end of the month. You're cruel. I'm consistent. What about my fridge full of food? Pack it. Or eat it. At 9 p.m., Mom again. Be the bigger person, she insisted. Cover a month. Being bigger doesn't mean paying tuition for bad behavior, I answered. You sound like your father, she snapped. Thanks. She huffed. Then, as if reading from a script, real partners support growth. Partners don't use that line like a code to access accounts. She hung up. Thursday, the landlord met me at the apartment for a quick walkthrough before showings. Erin was there, pacing, cheeks blotchy. She made a point of crying in the doorway where neighbors would see. You're abandoning me, she announced, loud enough for the stairwell. I'm being made homeless. You're being given what you demanded, I answered, unshaken. Your own space, funded by you. The landlord cleared his throat. We can discuss month to month, Erin, he offered gently. But payments must be on schedule. She turned on him. You're heartless. He looked at me, half shrugged. We finished checking the outlets. I left 2 sets of screws labeled for the curtain rods I'd reinstalled years ago. That's how my brain works. Before I left, Erin grabbed my sleeve. You said you wanted me happy, she accused. I do. Happiness doesn't run on my credit card. You keep saying I asked for this. I didn't ask you to overreact. You asked for air. I opened the windows. You're making me the bad guy. No, I said. You're discovering that decisions have weight. She made a frustrated sound, wiped her cheek with the back of her hand in a way that used to make me fold. I didn't. Friday, she tried the swarming approach. Lila texted me paragraphs about compassion. Connor sent me a shorter gem. You're insecure. I didn't respond to either. Evan pinged me. Want me to run interference at the apartment if anyone shows up? I told him no. I don't use little brothers as shields. By Sunday, I had every tool in place in the new apartment. I mounted my own shelves, stockpiled screws, labeled bins. I woke up at 6 and ran numbers on a small subcontract we were bidding on. Life organized itself without the background noise of vibe. Then Erin called, quiet this time. Can we meet in public? She asked. Neutral ground. Pick the place. She chose a coffee shop near the old apartment. She walked in wearing a sweater I'd gotten her last winter. She sat, held the mug with both hands like it was a prop in a softer scene. I miss you, she led. I miss us. What do you miss? I asked. She thought. The way you handle things. That's not us. That's me. And us, she pushed. We were good until your rules strangled it. Which rules strangled it? I asked, not unkind. Paying for what you use? Not insulting me in public? Not booking our home as a co-working space? Those are pretty basic. She tapped the mug. You designated everything into boxes. That's not love. Love without container spills into whatever's convenient for the loudest person, I replied. That's not love either. That's chaos. She stared at the foam. I can't afford the apartment alone. Then don't keep it. I'll have to move into a room with strangers. That's one way to meet new circles. Stop joking. I'm not joking. She took a breath. If I find a cheaper place, will you contribute for a few months while I stabilize? No. Why? Because the life you're describing is your choice. Choices should match resources. Otherwise, it's pretend freedom on someone else's dollar. So that's it, she said. No grace. Grace is not the same thing as sponsorship. She blinked at me, then tried one last script. We could set rules. Curfew. Check-ins. Boundaries. We can do the work. I can be softer. That's not a solution, I said. That's theater to keep access. I'm closing access. She put the mug down too hard. You win, then. No, I said. I exit. She didn't text that night. Monday morning, I filed the divorce papers. Clean. Uncontested if she signed. No property to divide beyond what was already segmented. We had no children, no shared accounts worth a fight, and I'd removed my exposure. The lawyer's email 2 days later said, she signed. Friday, she sent a long message about how I'd taught her nothing but scarcity. She used the word dignity like it was a dare. I read it once, then archived it. Evan texted an hour later a photo from the neighborhood board, our old apartment listed for showings. In the comments, one of Aaron's friends wrote, sad. The place had such energy. Someone else replied, energy doesn't cover rent. Aaron tried one last visit. She arrived at my new door with a dish covered in foil. She stood there like a story could be swapped out if the music changed. I made dinner, she said softly. Can we please? No, I replied. What do I tell people? She asked. The truth, I said. You wanted to live alone. You got it. You enjoy this, she accused. I enjoy sleeping where I'm respected. She swallowed. You didn't even give us a chance to recalibrate. You asked for space, I reminded her. You got the new settings. They came with a different access level. That's the only recalibration I owe. She didn't move. I hate you. That's allowed, I answered. It's also temporary. She left the dish on the mat. I threw it out. 2 weeks after the utilities cut off, the landlord texted that Erin had moved her things into a friend's spare room. He changed the locks. I dropped the final keys in his office tray, shook his hand, and walked out into a bright, ordinary afternoon. That was the point of no return. Not because I slammed doors, but because I didn't. On my last visit to the building to pick up mail, Mrs. Alvarez from 3B opened her door again. You look lighter, she observed. I'm just not hauling something that isn't mine anymore, I told her. Good, she said. Men like you forget you can put things down. I smiled. Not anymore. On my way out, Connor was in the lobby, gesturing into a phone, telling someone how spaces have to mirror souls. He saw me, paused, and gave me a nod like we were peers in a debate club. I didn't return it. Respect isn't a vote. At the curb, Rick pulled up, window down. Beer, he asked. I'm good, I said. Got shelves to mount. He squinted. You sure you don't want to toast the end of an era? I'll toast by sleeping 8 hours straight. He laughed. Suit yourself. That night, I set up a small stereo in the new place. Not loud, not symbolic. Just a working system. I cooked a simple meal on my pan. I ate at the table I'd assembled. I washed dishes. I labeled the breaker panel. I slept in clean sheets. Saturday morning, I took the truck to the shop for a tune-up and bought myself a used toolbox I'd been eyeing. Practical trophies. A month later, a woman named Dana from our accounting department asked if I wanted to join a group for a hiking day. I said yes. She didn't talk about vibes. She asked about trail maps and water. We laughed about weather and shoes, and nobody told anyone to breathe. We exchanged numbers like grown-ups. Evan and I started lifting again in the mornings. He said I seemed settled. Mom came by and inspected the apartment, noted that my towels actually matched, and deflated a little when she realized I hadn't become mean, just clear. I didn't like her. she admitted finally, quiet, eyes on the plant I'd somehow kept alive. I wanted to, but I didn't. I did, I said. Once. Do you miss her? Pieces. Not the whole. Mom nodded. Good answer. I traded the old truck for a solid one with fewer problems and more torque. I took on a new crew, won a bid on a mid-size renovation in the West End, and let the bigger numbers sit quietly in their accounts. No flourish. Just wait and balance. Word got around that Erin moved twice in 3 months. A friend of a friend mentioned she was renting a room in a walk-up with 2 other artists and doing a lot of posts about solitude. She hosted small gatherings in other people's kitchens. Her circle loved her captions. That's not a punchline. It's just a different metric. Sometimes I see her name float across a screen. She's still selling freedom like a candle. Maybe it smells nice. It doesn't keep a roof over your head. People expect a final speech, something triumphant. There isn't one. There's a final act. I went back to the old apartment one last time on the 1st of the month to meet the landlord, hand him a set of curtain anchors he'd asked for, and lock up. Erin had left a small paint stain on the hallway baseboard. I wiped it clean with a damp rag and a steady hand. He handed me the deposit check, minus a light cleaning fee. I said thanks, tucked it into my pocket, and headed for the stairs. Erin stood at the bottom, waiting, hair pulled back, eyes clear for once. She didn't look like the version who weaponized softness. She looked like someone who'd hit a wall and was reading the sign on it. You really did it, she said. I didn't do anything to you, I told her. I did something for me. I thought you would fill the gap, she admitted. I stopped patching holes I didn't make. She chewed the inside of her cheek. You were right about the apartment. I usually am about structures. I'm not going to ask you for anything, she said. I just wanted you to know I regret how I framed it. I used words like tools. Tools build or cut, I replied. You chose cut. I put down the lumber. She nodded. I hope you're happy. I am, I said. And I want you to be happy too. She looked up at that. Maybe she heard the echo of the night I said it the first time. This time, no strategy latched onto it. She reached into her tote and pulled out a small sketch. The kitchen island. The one I'd installed. She held it out. For you, she said. You made good work. I took it. Good luck, Erin. You too. I turned, walked out into the daylight, and didn't look back. That was my final line, without drama, without a door slam. A measured exit. 2 months later, Dana and I drove out past the river to a trail where the air actually tasted like it belonged to anyone who'd made the effort to show up. My phone buzzed once with an unknown number and then went quiet. I didn't pick up. We reached a lookout, not dramatic, just honest. I pointed at a straight run of path ahead. That's the way, I told her. Measuring the grade? She teased. Always. She laughed, the easy kind. We walked. We didn't talk about oxygen as performance art. We didn't post it. We just moved. Back in town, I parked in my clean slot, locked the truck, and climbed the stairs to a place that fit. On the counter, in a simple frame, sat the sketch of the island. Not as a shrine. As a reminder, I build, I maintain, I let go when someone mistakes that for a given. Erin, last I heard, she subleased a smaller studio, posted less, and learned late what most of us learn the hard way. Independence is a bill you pay yourself. She has a circle still, tight as ever. Good for her. What she doesn't have is my house, my cards, or my patience. She called it suffocating. I called it structure. When she asked for air, I opened all the windows and stepped outside. That's not cruelty. That's clarity. And it's quiet out here, the kind of quiet a man earns. I didn't win anything. I ended something that had stopped respecting me. That's the work. You don't rant. You don't negotiate with people who prefer your backbone as scaffolding. You change the locks that have your name on them. You hand back keys that were copies of yours. You move the tools you bought with your own money into a place where they build your life, not a stage. You keep moving. You stay measured. And if someone ever tells you they can't breathe around you, hand them the air they asked for and walk away before they decide your lungs are public property.